Witamy Państwa. Jesteśmy dzisiaj w Wedemark w Meditech Electronics. Minęło już prawie 10 lat, odkąd metoda Warnkego jest w Polsce. Początkowo rozwijała się bardzo powoli, a teraz coraz więcej osób się nią interesuje. Jesteśmy tutaj, żeby zapytać Ralpha Warnke, jaka była historia jej powstania i co leżało jakby u tych początków rozwoju metody. Hi Ralph, we are in Wedemark where Warnke method was invented. The method which became more and more popular, more famous in Poland. Could you please explain us shortly what the Warnke method is?
Yes, of course, Robert, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
The Warnke method is a solution with which we help particularly children to cope better in classroom environment. And we do this not just trying to train on what children cannot do properly in school, but primarily to give them the foundation of coping better in classroom environment in the field of central auditory processing, language processing, and everything related to that.
Okay. Your father, Fred Warnke, worked in Sennheiser Electronics, the biggest microphone and headphones German manufacturer. How his experience led him to make a decision to design technology which not only produces the sounds itself but changes brain processes and changes people's life?
Well, see, he worked for Sennheiser Electronic for 25 years as managing director, but he always was an inventor. So he actually is considered somewhat the father of so-called microport systems, which is a wireless communication between a hearing impaired student and his teacher. So those children, literally hundreds of thousands worldwide, were able to attend normal schools thanks to him and thanks to his technology. And when he stopped working at Sennheiser after 25 years, he imposed two basic rules upon himself. Number one, I will only do fun things from here on. He deserved that. And secondly, I want to help people in the field of hearing and understanding. And so the closest match, aside from hearing impaired children, were children that seemed to hear just fine, but still struggled in classroom. And so this was his primary aim. How can we help children to cope better in classroom situation and to improve their auditory processing in the brain, which is a key to that.
Okay, it was a very interesting idea at the beginning probably, but how do you remember? It was easy to implement this method?
Well, as
Germany?
It was not.
Okay.
Like every new method, you undergo 3 stages. The first stage is people laugh at you and think it's foolish. In the second stage, they try to prove you wrong. And in the third stage, they start actively applying your method and saying we always did. So we are well in stage 3 now, but in the beginning it was a lot of struggle. A lot of people were opposing to the idea that something else than to practice what you can't do would solve that issue. So in the beginning, we started to look for partners in research. We tried to convince educational structures to implement that technology, and it proved quite difficult. So instead of a top-down approach, trying to get official organizations to sign off on it, we decided to go bottom-up to find therapists, teachers that would want to support their students with this. And so in the beginning we actually produced 30 Brain Boys, our most renowned product, which is a very small quantity, and started to work with that. And then eventually we came about doing research, doing cooperations with universities and showing what the method could really do.
What about you? I know from your history of life that you had plans to become a lawyer. Yes, and the end of this history is different.
Well, when I was 9 years of age, I made a decision on my professional life, which was quite unusual, but I actually decided that I wanted to study law. And I did that studying at 18 after I finished my school education. And aside from that, since the people in the legal field have a somewhat odd language, I also studied German and politics. But I saw that my father wanted to work in this field and he wanted to have fun with that. And as you know, sales and production isn't always fun. So he actually gave his ideas to two German companies in the north and in the south who gladly produced the solutions and told people to call my father if they had any questions. This was kind of in contradiction to his imposed rule number 1, I will only do fun things. And so with that process in mind, we already had been discussing all his findings and his research, and so I was already part of that. And so it was not that far-fetched of a stretch to say, okay, how about I take care of the things you don't like? And so as a 4th semester law student, I signed my first 2 contracts with a northern and a southern German company and started to support people applying the method. And eventually the phone calls didn't just come from the Hanover region or Hamburg or Munich, but got as far as Australia, just by the word of mouth. So this is our little in-house museum of Meditech's history. It basically starts off with this little guy, the Hypheno, which is a little figure that my father actually invented for me when I was a child, and which later became a model for one of the stories for our lateral training, a solution with which we help people to process language better and which really facilitates language processing in the brain. A few of the publications in here are first catalogs, and then here you see our first models of lateral training. We continue on to our home trainer, the first solution to actually do lateral training at home. Our catalogs from the first years of the company, and then down here we actually have our brain boys in many different generations. And there's one that I would particularly like to pick out, which is this one. And you can see it's been in active use, and it is actually model 991, the 991 first unit that we ever built. And when we had our 10th year's anniversary, a therapist, a speech therapist, came back to me and said, Mr. Warnke, this is a great tool. My son, who is now 18, just made the German Abitur, which is graduating from high school, and particularly also many thanks to you. He doesn't need it anymore, but maybe this is something for your personal museum. So we put it in here and we find it very precious and keep it in good faith.
Hope you remember how it was the process. I would like to understand how the person like your father, he was inventor. He had probably laboratory in his house, yes?
Yes, he did, indeed.
How it looked like?
Oh, it was always very busy. There was a lot of technology, there were a lot of instruments there because he was actually also building circuitries, designing hardware at the time, but of course there was his computer. He was doing a lot of reading on the issue, on central auditory processing and the importance of that skill set for language processing. So it was always a very busy place, very cramped with technology.
Okay. Do you remember that something happened that your father started to be interested in this technology, or it was a process, or?
I believe that he always had the vision of helping people, and so just like he helped children with hearing impairments at large by literally allowing hundreds of thousands of them to attend normal schools, he felt helping children to have a normal and happy routine going through their school career, that was something that really inspired him.
Coming to now, you have a company not only developing devices but also spread around the knowledge about your father's invention and in the methods area. We have a lot of articles in Poland confirming that the method is very successful. So how in these days the technology is changing. The technology and the method is changing because the iPhones, electronics, a lot of things, they are improving. Does it change this invention which designed your father?
I would say it even makes it more important because we've been monitoring the tests conducted on young pupils prior to attending school here in the Hanover region, for example, and typically it's a little more than 10,000 new students every year. And 20 years ago, there were about 25% of these pupils struggling in the field of articulation, language processing and perception. 10 years ago it was 37.5%, and merely 4 years ago the numbers showed 48% of those students being tested actually showed problems in these domains. So the problem is increasing a lot, and I think this has a lot to do with modern media, and it has a lot to do with the way children are raised today and how fast the world has started to spin. So the need for a specific type of training has increased and not decreased from that perspective, and so helping children to cope in school is really, really essential. And it's my inner desire and vision that one day we'll have established a new subject in school, which is not German or Polish or French or math, but in the first 2 grade levels I would love to see children get a perception training as a key subject in school, so that they learn how to really cope and survive in classroom situations and can really live up to their best.
Okay. Any plans for the future regarding the methods itself for your company?
Many. We have been integrating more and more different types of solution into a common set of training options, and our key desire is we want to have good professional test solutions, and for every test we conduct we also want to provide a corresponding training solution, because that is something that has always nagged me, that bothered me, that there are so many tests conducted on these children. And then you see, oh, they can't do this and they can't do that and they can't do that, and then you go, and what do we do about it? And it is our key aim to find better, even better and more professional and more targeted solution to really help people, because that's our main theme. We help people.
Another question. How do you perceive the development of Warnke method in Poland from Germany perspective? How it changes in time?
I think it's a very impressive development. I mean, you basically underwent a similar routine as we did in the first years when we started in Germany, and we were very happy when we were able to conduct the first steps in research, when we met Professor Tevis, for example, the one that validated the Harvik intelligence test for Germany, and who conducted a sequence of studies that initiated the first documentation of the success of the method. And we are very happy to see how this has been progressing and is still continuing on to the day with very recent publication on research of the efficiency of the method. Professor Lipowska, exactly, which is just in the process of publishing as we speak, as I understand. And just the knowledge that more than 1,000 people in Poland have undergone the complete training on the Warnke method shows that there is a huge number of professionals who are now able to provide corresponding help and services in Poland. So it's an amazing story, and I'm very, very happy to see that happen. And I think my father would be very proud as well.
Thank you very much, Ralph, for the interview. It was very good time to meet you.
Thank you so much, Robert. It was a true pleasure. Thank you for taking the time of visiting me here. And I'm wishing you, and particularly all of the people in Poland, the very best, particularly in the application of our method. And rest assured, we'll do whatever we can to support you in the process and to improve the method even further by continuing with our research and development.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.